Picture this. A 23-year-old walks onto a basketball court in Indianapolis. The arena is packed, every seat sold, people standing in the aisles just to catch a glimpse of her. Cameras are rolling. Millions are watching from home. And 91 seconds later, before most fans have even settled into their seats, she's already been punished. A referee's whistle cuts through the noise. A technical foul. $1,000 gone just like that. And this isn't the first time. It isn't even close to the first time. By the time this story is over, you'll understand why some people believe the most talked about athlete in America is being watched more closely than anyone else in her sport, and why her fans act in a way the league never expected. Let's start at the beginning, because to understand why this moment mattered so much, you need to understand who Caitlin Clark actually is and what she means to women's basketball. A few years ago, women's basketball was a niche sport. Games were played in half-empty arenas. Broadcasts got buried on obscure channels. Most casual fans were selling out arenas built for hockey and football. Television ratings that had flatlined for years suddenly spiked into numbers nobody had seen in the history of the league. Wherever she played, on the road, or in other words, she didn't just join the WNBA. She became the engine driving it forward. But here's the thing about being the most famous player in your sport. Every single thing you do gets magnified. A missed shot becomes a headline. A frustrated glance at a referee becomes a viral clip. And if you get punished by rewind to a night that a lot of people point to as the beginning, the energy inside the arena was electric. The Fever's bench was up on its feet the entire game, screaming, celebrating every big play like it was the final seconds of a championship. The crowd fed off that energy, and Indiana rolled to a convincing win, evening up the series. After the game, riding the high of the victory, Clark hopped on social media. Nothing dramatic, even in celebration, even in victory, would not be tolerated. Clark's response told you everything about her personality. Instead of getting defensive or apologizing, she posted about the fine herself, laughing it off, joking that her bench mob was going to be even louder the next night. One of her teammates jumped into the replies with a joke about starting a fundraiser to help her pay it off. The whole exchange became a lighthearted moment. She was being penalized more harshly than anyone else for showing frustration. Whatever the truth was, the technical fouls started piling up. By the middle of July, Clark had already picked up several technical fouls over the course of the season. Then came the night against the New York Liberty, a marquee matchup between two of the league's biggest teams. League rules. Once a player hits their 8th technical foul in a season, it triggers something far more serious than a fine, an automatic one-game suspension, without pay, no exceptions. Suddenly, this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about Caitlin Clark, the most bankable, most watched, most talked about player in the league, being 2 mistakes away from being forced to sit out a game entirely. Think about what that actually means. Every time she's suspended, ticket holders who paid premium prices specifically hoping to see her play would walk into an arena and find out she wasn't there. Television broadcasts built around her presence would lose their biggest draw. The entire business machine that had been supercharged by her arrival in the league was suddenly at risk of stalling out because of a stack of technical fouls. And the drama didn't stop with that Liberty game. Later in that very same contest, something happened that a lot of fans felt was far more serious than anything Clark had done all night. In a defensive sequence near the basket, WNBA veteran and multiple-time champion Breanna Stewart extended her arm while contesting a shot. Replays showed her hand making direct, unmistakable contact with the side of Clark's face. It wasn't a graze. It wasn't ambiguous. It was a clean shot to the face, the kind of contact that in most contact sports draws an immediate whistle. No foul was called. No review. No flagrant. Nothing. Social media exploded. Clips of the hit spread within minutes, shared by fans, analysts, and former players alike, all asking the same question. How does a player get a technical foul for complaining about a screen, but a direct hit to the face from a superstar defender draws absolutely no whistle at all? Clark didn't speak to reporters after that game. She wasn't made available. And that silence, more than anything, seemed to speak volumes. Fans who had already been simmering over what they saw as inconsistent officiating throughout the season now had fresh fuel. The hashtags started trending. Compilation videos comparing every hard foul against Clark to every technical foul she'd received started circulating. People started keeping tally charts, side-by-side comparisons, screenshots stacked next to screenshots, building a visual case that something wasn't adding up. And here's where the story takes its next major turn. Just days later, in a game against the Connecticut Sun, tensions boiled over again. During an on-court exchange with Sun guard Sonia Rivers, Clark got into a heated moment, gesturing toward the scoreboard, apparently making a point about the score. Words were exchanged. Both players ended up with technical fouls on the play. For Clark, this was her 7th technical of the season. One away from triggering that automatic suspension everyone had been talking about since the Liberty game. The Fever's front office, sensing how serious this had become, filed an appeal, hoping the league would rescind the technical and give their franchise player some breathing room. For a few tense days, nothing was confirmed. Fans debated. Reporters speculated. Would the league show leniency toward their most valuable asset, the player responsible for a massive share of their revenue? Or would they hold the line, treating her exactly like any other player, no special treatment, no exceptions? The answer came down on a Wednesday. The appeal was denied. The technical foul stood. Caitlin Clark was now officially one infraction away from an automatic one-game suspension without pay, with the bulk of the season still ahead of her. Reporters asked her directly afterward whether she planned to change anything about how she approached the game now that she knew the stakes. Her answer, in classic Clark fashion, showed no fear, no backing down, just the same competitive fire that had made her famous in the first place. She wasn't going to play scared. She wasn't going to change who she was just because the league had her on notice. But here's an almost stopped there, it didn't. Because on top of the technical fouls, on top of the suspension threat, Clark found herself facing scrutiny over something completely different: media availability. League rules require that after every game, a certain number of players from each team, typically the leading scorer and a key contributor, make themselves available to report the face, laid out side by side against every technical foul Clark had received for reacting to those very same plays. These weren't produced by news outlets. These were regular fans sitting at home, pausing and rewinding broadcast footage, cutting together their own evidence, and posting it for the world to see. The hashtags kept climbing. Threads with tens of thousands of replies broke down every disputed call from her fanbase, proof that no matter how many fines came down, the support around her wasn't going anywhere. Ticket sales, if anything, kept climbing. Every rumor of a potential suspension seemed to only intensify the demand to see her play while she still could. Scalpers reported spikes in resale prices specifically for games where suspension rumors were swirling, fans desperate to catch her before she potentially had to sit one out. In a strange twist, motion debated across every platform imaginable. And through it all, one thing remained constant. The fans never backed down. They kept posting their comparisons. They kept defending her. They kept showing up to games in record numbers, buying jerseys, filling arenas, driving ratings higher than the league had ever seen before her arrival. Whatever the league's intentions were behind each individual fine or each individual technical foul, the unintended consequence was a fanbase more engaged, more vocal, and more united than ever before. So, where does that leave things? As of the latest reporting, Caitlin Clark remains on the edge, one technical foul away from a mandatory suspension, with the bulk of a demanding season still ahead of her. The fines keep coming in various forms, whether for a technical, a social media comment, or a missed media obligation. And yet, somehow, none of it has slowed her down, and none of it has slowed down the movement of fans standing behind her. It's a strange, almost paradoxical story. A league trying to enforce discipline on its most valuable player, only to find that every fine, every technical, every controversial no-call seems to generate more attention, more passion, and more loyalty from the very fan base that's been fueling the sport's unprecedented growth. Whether you see it as the league doing its job, holding even its biggest star accountable to the same rules as everyone else, or whether you see it as an uneven standard being applied to the player who arguably deserves the most protection given how much contact she absorbs on a nightly basis, one thing is undeniable. Caitlin Clark changed women's basketball the moment she stepped onto a professional court. And this saga, The fines, the technical fouls, the suspension countdown, and the fans who refuse to let it slide quietly by is just the latest chapter in a career that has never once been quiet. The question now is simple. Will she make it through the rest of the season without that 8th technical foul, avoiding the suspension that's been hanging over her for weeks? Or will one more heated moment, one more disputed call, finally push her over the edge? Either way, you can be sure of one thing. Whatever happens next, the fans will be watching closely,